The city of Spokane, near Washington's eastern border, is much smaller than cosmopolitan Seattle. But surprisingly, Washington's second largest city shares much in common with Seattle. Both were popular mining towns in the first half of the 19th century. Both cities were destroyed by fires and were later rebuilt. Both have hosted a World's Fair. And both Seattle and Spokane boast impressive public park systems. Early pioneers were determined to make Spokane not only a great city, but a great city to live in. In 1906, one of the nation's leading landscape architecture firms, Olmsted Brothers, was hired to map out a series of public parks for residents to enjoy. Their efforts can be seen today in many of Spokane's beautiful outdoor gardens and parks. It was that same love of the outdoors that drew Paul and Denise Hastings to buy a small 7-acre farm just north of downtown Spokane. But this was not just any 7-acre farm.
My grandpa lived here, and when I was a little girl, I used to come out, and we came out every Sunday. And so we used to spend our time playing outside.
We had met as young people, and Denise brought me out here when I was about 14 years old, and I just loved the place. I was just so amazed at the grounds and the house and the estate, and little did we know that we'd end up living here.
In 1935, Denise's grandfather, Spokane businessman John T. Little, bought a tiny 3-bedroom log cabin on 50 acres. He and his wife were looking for a country home with some land and a lifestyle away from the city. They moved into the small cabin and named their new estate Littlebrook Farm.
When my grandma and grandpa moved here, my grandma went down to the unemployment office and was looking for some help, and it was during the Depression, and she found a man named Oliver LaJoie, and he really is the person who virtually built this log home.
John T. Little and Oliver LaJoie shared a common bond. They both wanted to create a truly inspired estate at Littlebrook Farm. They worked together, adding on to the farmhouse, hand-cutting and hewing the logs that would become the home's trademark.
I can just picture old John T. Little and Oliver going room by room and identifying the particular look that they wanted for that room. And each of the rooms is unique. Each room that they finished, beautifully inscribed, are dates when that room was completed. And so you'll see in the kitchen 1936, in the solarium 1939, the living room 1937. Each room has been inscribed with its completion date.
Yeah.
Owning Littlebrook Farm had been Denise's dream ever since her grandfather sold the home in the 1960s. Her dream was realized over 30 years later when the couple who bought it from John Little offered to sell it to Denise and Paul. And best of all, the home remained virtually unchanged since Denise's grandfather had lived there.
We found everything, including the drapes in my grandpa's bed and a lot of the furnishings, just in place like they were when I had seen them when I was 10 years old. So that was really, really miraculous to us and really important, and we appreciated that so much from them. So we always want to be thankful that they were good stewards of this home and kept it that way for 30 years.
But even though Littlebrook Farm was in good condition, there was still work to be done in bringing the home up to date.
One of my very, very close friends, when he came to visit, I told him the name of the farm was Littlebrook, and he had been here for about 15 minutes and looked at me and said, "Paul, the name of this farm is not Littlebrook, it's Lot of Work Farm." It was very overwhelming.
But Paul and Denise persevered. They started with the home's electrical system. It had to be replaced. Then a new shake roof was installed. Next, several acres of trees were cleared and landscaping began. Repairing the pond dam, clearing brush, and planting shrubs and flowers, all done largely by the Hastings family and friends.
I think the most rewarding part for me has been participating with our family and our friends as they've been involved with us. It's not uncommon for us to have our relatives help us, to show up on a weekend with rakes, with saws, gloves, and pitch right in with us.
Paul and Denise and family spent 3 years restoring Littlebrook Farm. And to make sure that it would be preserved for generations to come, they had the home placed on the National Historic Register.
We certainly hope that someone in our family will inherit the farm and keep the legacy going on. And we can't imagine that would ever be out of the family again.
When we return, a brick Tudor home on the south side of Spokane once captured the mind of a small boy. He vowed to own and restore it one day. That's next, when Restore America continues.
Next thing I knew, I woke up in the morning in the middle of the old feather bed. It was 9 feet high and 6 feet wide, soft as a downy chick. It was made from the feathers of 4 lamb geese to go over the cloth with a tick. It was old 8 kids and 4 hound dogs and a piggy we stole from the shed. Wouldn't get much sleep, but we had a lot of fun on Grandma's feather bed. After supper, I sit around the fire, the old folks.
There's no place to put it, so one way or another, the Carpet Barn has to roll.